Hi everyone, and welcome to our tutorial on how to create a kinematics calculator in Xamarin Studio. Now this is going to be a pretty long tutorial, probably around 2 hours, so bear with me. I'll have to go pretty fast in some points because I don't really want to drag this out too long, but I'll try and get the more complicated stuff explained properly, and then we can kind of go quickly over the easy stuff. Okay, so when I say kinematics, I mean I'm just going to switch to this Google Chrome window. I'm going to be looking at these four equations, okay? So these are useful for any kind of physics students if you're taking any kind of kinematics course. And basically there are 5 variables here. There's displacement, initial velocity, final velocity, time, and acceleration. And these 4 equations basically help you to calculate. They use 4 variables each, and so generally we'll have 1 out of 4 of those missing, and depending on which one, we'll need to use a different kind of equation, and then we might need to manipulate it a bit. So that's where it gets a little bit complicated, and that's why this is going to take a while, because there are a lot of different cases and a lot of equations to manipulate. But basically we're just going to be implementing a calculator that has these 4, and you can input 3 variables, choose your missing variable, and then you can calculate what that missing variable is. Okay, so that's our final goal, is to create this calculator that does that. Okay, so we'll switch back to Xamarin, and I'm in Xamarin Studio now. This is what the home page looks like for those of you who haven't seen it before. And what we're going to do is we're going to start a new project, and in Xamarin projects are called solutions. So we're going to look on the left hand panel here. We're going to open up new solution, and we're going to choose a single app view. We'll be coding in C#, and we'll click next. Now let's give this a name. I think kinematics calculator. Let's call this tutorial is an appropriate name, and we're going to be using Android and iOS and then the shared library. So we'll click next. If you're happy with that name and happy with the location, then we're good to go. Don't check these boxes and click create. Okay, so for those of you who have watched these tutorials before, it's going to be the same setup where we're just going to basically make a blank file for the code and then a blank layout. For those of you who haven't, I'll go through what I'm about to do. So this is the file explorer here, and there's no file open, which is why we have the blank page. What we're going to do is we're going to first open up the Android files, because in this tutorial we're going to basically build our calculator from start to finish in Android, and then we're going to go back and do the same in iOS. And there are going to be some differences, but there are also going to be a lot of similarities, and I'll explain those as we go. So we're going to open up 2 files from the droid section. As you can see, I just expanded the kinematics calculator tutorial.droid, and we're going to open up the main activity.cs, and if we go into resources and into layout, I'm going to open up main.axml also. Okay, so switching over to main activity.cs, this is where we're going to put our code. Okay, and main.axml is where we're going to design the layout. So implementing functionality here, designing the layout here. Okay, so to get set up, there's a couple things I want to do. The first, if you see this phone screen, this is going to be our emulator. So we're basically going to put all of our widgets, we're going to design our layout on this, and then when we run it, it will be run on this phone screen. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go to device, and we're going to select the Nexus S. Okay, and the second thing we're going to do is I'm going to click right on this. This is a button, and this defaults to include this button every time you start a new project in Xamarin. So I'm just going to select it, and I'm going to hit delete, which deletes the button because I don't need it anymore. And I'm just going to save it, so Command S, and we're going to go back to main activity.cs because we're done with the layout portion for now. And I'm just going to delete the code that corresponds with that button. So if you look here, that's going to be these last 4 lines, so the 2 comments and then the 2 lines here. I'm just going to select that all and hit delete, and same with the integer count. So these are just basically bits of code that handle the button press, and we just deleted that button, so we no longer need to include that code. Okay, so I'm just going to hit save, and now we're done setting up the droid section, so I'm just going to close these files. And now I'm going to close up the Android portion, and now let's open the iOS portion. Okay, so again, we're going to open two files. One is going to be the viewcontroller.cs, one is the main.storyboard. For those of you who are a little confused, I just open those by double clicking on them, but you can right click and open source code if you want. So these are pretty much the same as the Droid files, so viewcontroller.cs is very much like the mainActivity.cs. It's where our code is going to go. And so again, there's the code for the button. I'm just going to delete all of that, so that includes this stuff here. So this is from this comment to this curly brace with the semicolon. Just going to delete that, and also the integer count I'm going to delete. Okay, and I'm just going to save this, and now our viewcontroller.cs is ready for our code. I'm going to switch over to main.storyboard, and this is very much like the main.axml file in the Android portion. So again, it's where we're going to design the layout. So under View As, I'm going to select the iPhone 5S, and under Zoom, I'm going to hit this button, Zoom to Fit, and that just makes sure that I can see the whole screen. And again, selecting this button, and I'm going to delete it. So this gives us a nice blank phone emulator, so we can add exactly what we want to it. So now that we're done here, I'm just going to save it, and I'm going to close the iOS files, and now we have a blank screen. So we've done the basic setup, and our layouts are ready for us to use, as well as our codes don't contain any extra code that we don't need. So our first step will be to, again, design this app in Android. So we're going to design the layout, and then we're going to implement the functionality, and then we're going to fine-tune the design to add colors and make it look nice, and then we'll do the same thing in iOS. So without further ado, let's get to it.